The media in all its technologies and wider reach has increasingly become a target of misinformation, manipulation, and a contributor to conflict experienced in our society on many occasions. The entry of mobile phone technology and the easy access to the media gadgets has not made things any better, for this has created a breeding spot for hate speech in the name of citizen journalism, mainly through the social media platforms.
Kenyans are gearing up for the switchover.
But there have been very interesting things happening.
The burial of the vice chairperson of the national...
Journalists in Kisumu and around Kenya for a while have been blamed or accused of either knowingly or unknowingly using their profession while covering the conflict situations, at times for inciting or making a conflict situation move from bad to worse.
Local Capacities for Peace International decided to work in Kisumu County. And in the process of working with the communities, we realized that there's a lot of conflict in this county, but the media was greatly contributing to these conflicts because of their reporting. There was a time that the media labeled Kisumu as a gang city, and this gave a bad image of the county to the whole world actually. And so it's like the people from this county were branded gangs and no investor could come to this county. That is why we decided to focus on conflict-sensitive journalism so that we could bring these journalists on board, because we realized that they were part and parcel of this community, and therefore they needed to market this county to the investors and also to promote peace in this county.
In the past, journalists were left to report. We have bosses in the headquarters telling you, we want this story, you just do it quickly and then you report. But when you have some background information on how you should report on conflict-sensitive reporting, it helps. You are well equipped with whatever you are writing.
In the run-up to 2013 elections, I posted something on Facebook regarding some local politics where I come from. And I only realized later when the comments started trickling in that I think I'd made a mistake and I pulled it down. So it's a very big challenge. The thing is that we must remain focused. We always think before you act and know that there's an audience out there who everything you say or everything you do may either negatively or positively trigger reactions in them.
If you know the politics of this region, it has always been opposition politics. And where we have opposition politics, even the public or the population in the area is not normally considered to be in good terms with the authorities, particularly the government of the day. So ever since Kisumu has been recording cases of protest, cases of demonstration, you know, it's the people against the government of the day. So anything maybe the government wants to do or the government appears to be doing, if it is not in good terms with the people, always it will trigger protests. So there has been protests ever since, I'll say for ages. So, and you know, when we have such protests, media come in to cover. And so it has been like a story of Kisumu. If you want to get a story from Kisumu or from that Nyanza area, it will always be that story, the story that will get airtime or the story that will get publicity. It is that story of violence, protest, confrontation between the people and the authority. And at times it might just be a small thing. It is in the media mind that, oh, Kisumu, protest, headline, you know. If it is a protest in Kisumu, it will get headline. But if there is a peace initiative in Kisumu, it will not get headline.
In the last election, with the bungled election, it was expected that Kisumu was going to burn. But that was not so. We have cases of CNN and BBC. Their crew were in Kisumu, ready to capture people throwing stones. They were unable to get... The only incident that was a little bit ugly was on 30th of April during the Supreme Court ruling.
So we were looking at ways by which these journalists could do their reporting in a conflict-sensitive manner. The reporting that would not exacerbate conflict, but at the same time pass the information to the people.
We have been working with Local Capacity for Peace International since 2012 as journalists from Kisumu. So that was Conflict-sensitive reporting. The first training, it was 2012, when we were approaching the elections. They brought all the journalists together and we talked how we are going to cover elections. They really gave us a lot of information, the training on how we were supposed to conduct ourselves.
At times, some irresponsible persons in the media industry will go further to mention that Kalenjins are fighting Luos, 7 Luos have been killed, 3 Kalenjins have been injured. Unknowingly, maybe that journalist knows that, oh, I'm just passing a story, I'm just informing the public. But what we are not having in mind is that such a story, what impact might it have on the parties that are directly involved in the conflict, like the border people? If you say that 7 Luos have been killed, what are you telling the Luo community? As a journalist, you're telling them, and not directly, but you're saying, your 7 people have been killed, can you think of how to revenge? And in that manner, you know, we are just doing our roles, informing, but we are not sensitive to the conflict.
And another thing was doing thorough investigation and getting their facts right, because we realized that some of them would go back to the file pictures and stories and bring them up as if they were very fresh.
After the 2007-2008 post-election violence, there was need for some change in how we report, especially come 2013 general elections too. So after learning all that, after learning, seeing and experiencing what happened in 2007-2008, there was somehow a change in us as journalists, and I'll say me, on how to preach peace even as you report whatever is happening.
Under this initiative by Local Capacities for Peace and other partners, I, together with my colleague Alan, we were trained as trainers or TOTs on conflict-sensitive journalism. The kind of trainings we had, it was not just that normal training where a professor or somebody who knows things stands in front to tell the others what to do. No, it was a kind of training where we had open discussions among us ourselves as journalists, identifying areas that we might have done wrongly, bringing in examples of newspaper cuttings, video clips, radio broadcast clips, which we could discuss and identify the actual problems. And eventually, at the end of the day, everybody seemed to be agreeing in some aspects, like, oh, this one, the language here, this word could have been changed to this and it could pass the same message. Instead of saying the chaotic or using the chaotic vocabularies, you can just tell the same story in a neutral way, so that you don't seem to be taking side in the conflict, or you don't seem to be condemning a side in the conflict, but you actually seem to be offering a solution.
Thanks to the conflict-sensitive reporting and journalism training we had, they have actually opened our minds. The many people that maybe attended the forum, I think from there, you would not go and do your own things. You would actually go do your work professionally.
We also focused on the comedians, because we realized that the comedians were the people who were really fueling a lot of conflict. Actually, most of these comedians are not trained journalists, but they are in the profession. So most of them have programs, especially in the vernacular radio stations. They could use hate speech against other ethnic groups, and this would really fuel conflicts. So that is why the journalists, the other trained journalists, felt that the comedians should be brought on board.
And a conflict-sensitive journalism is just a situation where journalists are told, you keep reporting as usual, just do your work as usual, continue covering conflict as usual, but can you be mindful? Don't be that person whose story or whose article will make the conflict escalate. Maybe it was just tension, and maybe through your stories you make the tension to be worse and people start fighting.
There's a big difference, because now their reporting has really changed. They have become conflict sensitive. Like even when we have conflicts along the borders, the way they report, the language that they use. 2013
elections, we were really blamed that the media, you were preaching peace even if people are dying, people are doing what, but we had to. At least we saw fruits. There was no, especially in Kisumu, there was a big change.
So the big question is that now it is a question to be discussed by many actors. How do we well control now the citizen journalism that goes bare, that is insensitive to conflict in the social media?
Social media is it's a blessing and a curse. I'll call it that. It's more of a curse nowadays in Kenya than a blessing because it's being misused. It's out of hand because everybody's a journalist outside here, citizen journalism.
In the run-up to 2013 general election, it was a bit heated. And the media, having seen what happened in 2007, before and after, where even as we speak, we're having a journalist who is facing criminal charges at The Hague. The media was sort of cautious in the fear of having to ignite ethnic tensions among its communities. But with citizen journalism, we found that people were throwing things on Twitter, on Facebook, all over, on the blogs, and some of them were saying it as it happened.
All those hate speech, tribalism, name-calling, stereotyping, all that bad conflict coverage is what you will get in the social media. So it's something that actually needs to be controlled as soon as possible, or else even the impact that the conflict-sensitive journalists will have achieved in their mainstream outlets, it might be watered down with the impact of whatever is going bare in the social media.
So out of this group of journalists that we have been working with, they came up with their own welfare group. So these are a group of journalists that keep checking on each other on the way on the way they are doing their reporting. And so if somebody goes overboard, they can always sit down and correct each other. So that is a powerful network that they have come up with that helps them in checks and balances. So that is a great thing.
It will be better if this conflict-sensitive journalism is introduced as a complete module, maybe in our learning institutions, so that when you come out of the journalism school, you come out knowing very well that I'm a trained journalist. I'll abide by the journalism code of ethics, but my biggest experience in the field will always be around conflict. I need to know how I will also be sensitive to the conflict that I'm going to cover, so that I don't become part of the problem to the bigger society. So if it could be possible to introduce CSJ as a module in our learning institution, it will be a great achievement according to my consideration.